expand your vocabulary with our Core 2,000 Words ebook. It's free and packed with essential expressions that you'll use on a daily basis. Start building your vocabulary today. Click the link in the description below to download your free Hebrew ebook before it's gone.
Hello everybody, Dit here. Welcome to Hebrew Top Words. Today we are going to talk about 10 must-know words to party in Israel. Let's start. מסיבה, party. מסיבה, party. כבר שלחת את ההזמנות למסיבת יום ההולדת שלך? Have you sent your birthday party invitations yet? In Hebrew, party means mesiba, and it can be any sort of party, like in a club or like a grown-up tea party or a kiddie party at the park with like a clown or something. Yeah, it's cute. לרקוד, dance. לרקוד, dance. אני אוהב לרקוד גם בלי מוזיקה. I love to dance even without music. Yeah, why not? Dance like nobody's watching, right? מועדון, club. מועדון, club. הברגהיין הוא המועדון המפורסם בעולם. Berghain is the most famous dancing club in the world. So the word moadon means club, and it's not necessarily a dancing club. Like in English, it can mean like a members club or any sort of like other type of clubs, I guess, of groups that people go to. But in colloquial language, you mainly talk about dancing clubs, so therefore that's what it means. But you should know that it's not necessarily that. So if you see that word in a paper or something, it doesn't necessarily mean like a dance club. להשתולל, go wild. להשתולל, go wild. לפעמים כיף לצאת ולהשתולל עם חברים. Sometimes it's fun to go out and get wild with friends. So as long as you're having good, honest fun, you know, taking care of yourselves and not hurting anybody, go ahead and go wild. One point is that the word להשתולל, it's not just for like having fun, it's also for kids who are kind of out of control and, you know, just can't sit down. So we use that word also. So it's not just having fun, it's also just literally just being wild. לשתות, drink. לשתות, drink. במסיבות נהוג לשתות אלכוהול. It is common to drink in parties. Obviously, the same in English. When we say drink, we don't necessarily mean to drink alcohol, and we don't have to mention alcohol when we're talking about drinking it. So it kind of depends on what you're talking about. If you're talking about going out with friends, when you say we're going out to drink, of course it's not going to be lemonade. לחיים, cheers. לחיים, cheers. לפני ששותים לגימה, מרימים כוסית לחיים. Before the first sip, we make a toast. So instead of saying cheers, I guess every language has their own cheers. In Hebrew, it's לחיים, which literally means to life. And if you know the play Fiddler on the Roof, then I guess you already knew that לחיים means to life. להשתכר, get drunk. להשתכר, get drunk. לא מוכרחים להשתכר כדי ליהנות. One doesn't have to get drunk in order to have fun. You know what? That really depends where you are. If you're having like a family dinner and you're single and everybody's badgering you about getting married and having kids, maybe you should get drunk to have fun. I'm just saying. ערק, 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 ערק. ערק הוא המשקה האלכוהולי האהוב עליי. Arak is my favorite alcoholic drink. So if you're familiar with arak, it tastes very, very strongly of licorice. So if you don't like that, I don't think you're gonna like arak. It is very strong, which I'm not a fan of, but it really goes well with grapefruit juice, so what can you do? Muzika. Music. Muzika. Music. המוזיקה כאן רועשת מדי. The music here is too loud. That's me everywhere, anytime, anyplace. Hangover. 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 בכל יום ראשון אני סובל מ-hangover. Every Sunday I suffer from a hangover. Every Sunday, if it's every Sunday, then you have a problem. Sorry. Alright everybody, that's it. Those were 10 top words to know when partying in Israel. Let me know in the comments below some of your experiences from partying too hard. And if you're a party animal or not at all, like me. And yeah, don't forget to check out HebrewPod 101 for more content, more Hebrew, and I will see you all next time. Bye-bye. Litraot. Hi everyone, Edith here. Welcome to Hebrew Top Words. Today we are going to talk about top 10 phrases to survive at the station. To be honest, the stations are not too complicated. You don't really have that many lines in each station. It's usually just like one line going either north or south. So it's not that confusing. And you don't really have to change a lot of trains usually because there aren't that many lines. So it's not that difficult, and everything is English too. Like you have Hebrew and English everywhere. If you want to challenge yourself, you can speak Hebrew. But you really don't have to. Alright, let's dig in. איפה אני מחליף רכבת לגן החיות התנ"כי בירושלים? איפה אני מחליף רכבת לגן החיות התנ"כי בירושלים? Where do I change for Jerusalem Biblical Zoo Station? איפה אני מחליף רכבת לגן החיות התנ"כי בירושלים? איפה אני מחליף רכבת לגן החיות התנ"כי בירושלים? Where do I change for Jerusalem Biblical Zoo Station? To be honest, the trains to Jerusalem are not the easiest, but there is a station, like a train that goes straight into the zoo, which is really nice. And it's a really nice zoo, so if you get the chance, you should go there. זה עוצר בתחנת עזריאלי? זה עוצר בתחנת עזריאלי? Does this stop at Azrieli station? זה עוצר בתחנת עזריאלי? זה עוצר בתחנת עזריאלי? Does this stop at Azrieli station? So Azrieli station is a very, very central station in the middle of Tel Aviv. It's close both to a very famous military base, which is the most important military base in Israel, and also just close to like a big shopping mall and city center. So a lot of people go through there like from all over the country to Azrieli station and from Azrieli station to anywhere else. זהו הרציף הנכון לתחנת סבידור מרכז? זהו הרציף הנכון לתחנת סבידור מרכז? Is this the right platform for סבידור מרכז station? זהו הרציף הנכון לתחנת סבידור מרכז? זהו הרציף הנכון לתחנת סבידור מרכז? Is this the right platform to Savidor Merkaz station? Savidor Merkaz is like I think one station after Azrieli. It's also quite central, and I think Tel Aviv has the most amount of stations, like train stations, than any other city, which makes sense. I mean, it's the biggest one. אני רוצה לנסוע לתחנת סבידור מרכז. אני רוצה לנסוע לתחנת סבידור מרכז. I'd like to go to סבידור מרכז station. אני רוצה לנסוע לתחנת סבידור מרכז. אני רוצה לנסוע לתחנת סבידור מרכז. I'd like to go to סבידור מרכז station. That sounds to me more like a reply, like if somebody asks you, oh, where do you need to go? And then you say, So then you say, I want to go to ta-ta-ta-ta-ta. Because if you just come up to somebody, it's usually like, excuse me? No, 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 no. Like you ask a question, right? So this is more of a reply, I believe. איפה תחנת הרכבת? איפה תחנת הרכבת? Where's the train station? איפה תחנת הרכבת? איפה תחנת הרכבת? Where's the train station? It's usually pretty hard to miss. The stations are quite big because there aren't that many lines. A lot of people use the same lines. So they're usually like big and getting bigger all the time. So, yeah. היכן ניתן לקנות כרטיס? היכן ניתן לקנות כרטיס? Where can I buy a ticket? היכן ניתן לקנות כרטיס? היכן ניתן לקנות כרטיס? Where can I buy a ticket? Like anywhere, I guess, in the world, you have the cashier, like a human cashier, and you also have like the automatic machine that you can buy tickets, and it's all in English as well, so if you go, don't worry. I think there's special seats. There's special seats for elderly people or people who are handicapped, but that's pretty much it. Soldiers, if they need to show like a soldier certificate, and also policemen, if they have a policeman certificate and they are on uniform, not off uniform, they don't have to pay the ticket to go anywhere in Israel with public transportation. But if you're a soldier or a policeman and you're not wearing your uniform, then it's still gonna cost money. כמה זה לגבעתיים? כמה זה לגבעתיים? How much is it to גבעתיים? כמה זה לגבעתיים? כמה זה לגבעתיים? How much is it to גבעתיים? Givatayim is quite a small city that's pretty much annexed to Tel Aviv. They're pretty much connected, but it's a separate, I guess, separate enforcement. I don't know. There isn't really a train station there. You can get there quite easily by train, but it's not in Givatayim, it's in Tel Aviv. So when we want to ask about anything, how much is it, we can say kama ze, which is quite a simple way to ask how much something costs. And when you want to get somewhere, you just add le, which means to. So kama ze, how much, le, to, whatever. So for instance, you can say if you want to go to Azrieli station, you can ask kama ze le'Azrieli. That's pretty standard way of asking how much is it. האוטובוס הזה נוסע לבת ים? האוטובוס הזה נוסע לבת ים? Does this bus go to בת ים? האוטובוס הזה נוסע לבת ים? האוטובוס הזה נוסע לבת ים? Does this bus go to בת ים? Bat Yam is also a small town, small city pretty much, that's also annexed to Tel Aviv from the south. It's actually very close to Jaffa. And it's connected to Tel Aviv via the promenade. Like you can get all the way from northern Tel Aviv to Bat Yam just walking on the beach, which is really nice. And it's a nice place actually. It didn't used to be, but now it really is. היכן תחנת האוטובוס? היכן תחנת האוטובוס? Where's the bus stop? היכן תחנת האוטובוס? היכן תחנת האוטובוס? Where's the bus stop? Another way of asking where is something that's a bit more colloquial and not so correct Hebrew is to ask איפה instead of היכן. For instance, I can ask איפה תחנת האוטובוס? And not היכן תחנת האוטובוס? היכן kind of will make you sound a little bit like you're just learning Hebrew. Yeah, I mean it's very correct, but it's kind of old-timey. באיזו שעה יוצא האוטובוס הבא? באיזו שעה יוצא האוטובוס הבא? What time is the next bus? באיזו שעה יוצא האוטובוס הבא? באיזו שעה יוצא האוטובוס הבא? What time is the next bus? When we use the word יוצא, we mean what time does it leave? יוצא means leave or going out. We don't have to use it. We can also make it a bit shorter and just ask מתי האוטובוס הבא? When is the next bus? Okay guys, that's it. Those were 10 phrases to survive the stations. Let me know in the comments below if you ever had like a funny incident when you were in a station, like in your country or in somewhere abroad. God knows that things can happen when you're abroad and it's sometimes really funny. So yeah, let me know some stories and some questions that you have. Okay, and don't forget to check out HebrewPod101.com for more Hebrew, more content, and more videos. And I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. להתראות.
שלום.
שלום.
מה שלומך?
בסדר, תודה. שלום, קוראים לי טל.
שלום. אני יעל.
נעים מאוד.
נעים מאוד גם לי. ברוך הבא. כנס בבקשה.
תודה. הנה מתנה קטנה ממני. בבקשה.
תודה רבה.
בבקשה.
אאו. סליחה.
מה?
כף הרגל שלי.
או, סליחה.
ערב טוב.
שלום. אפשר לקבל תפריט?
ודאי.
סליחה. אפשר כוס מים בבקשה?
מיד.
סליחה. אפשר להזמין?
כן.
Hi everyone, good to see you again. I'm Yara and today we're going to be doing 10 lines you need for introducing yourself in Hebrew. So let's start. Shmi Yara. My name is Yara. Okay, this one is the most basic. Shmi Yara. My name is Yara. Shmi means my name and it's the same for men and women. You should know though this is a bit formal. The casual way of introducing yourself is saying קוראים לי יערה, which literally means something like I'm called יערה. שלום, נעים להכיר אותך. Hello, it's nice to meet you. שלום, נעים להכיר אותך. Hello, it's nice to meet you. You say this when you're talking to a male. Otherwise, it's שלום, נעים להכיר אותך. אני מישראל. I'm from Israel. אני מישראל. I'm from Israel. You can obviously change that. I'm from Italy would be אני מאיטליה. I'm from America will be אני מאמריקה. אני גרה בירושלים. I live in Jerusalem. אני גרה בירושלים. I live in Jerusalem. I said the female form. The male form would be אני גר בירושלים. This verb, אני גרה, גר, it doesn't mean to live like to exist, but to live in a place. So, אני גרה בירושלים. אני לומדת עברית כבר שנה. I've been learning Hebrew for a year. אני לומדת עברית כבר שנה. I've been learning Hebrew for a year. For a male it would be אני לומד עברית כבר שנה. אני בת 27. I'm 27 years old. אני בת 27. I'm 27 years old. For a male, אני בן 27. אני מורה. I'm a teacher. אני מורה. I'm a teacher. Or for a male, אני מורה. You obviously don't have to say that if you're not a teacher. אחד התחביבים שלי הוא קריאה. One of my hobbies is reading. אחד התחביבים שלי הוא קריאה. One of my hobbies is reading. This sentence stays the same for male and for female speaker. אני נהנית להאזין למוזיקה. I enjoy listening to music. אני נהנית להאזין למוזיקה. I enjoy listening to music. For male speaker, אני נהנה להאזין למוזיקה. גדלתי בתל אביב.
I grew up in Tel Aviv. גדלתי בתל אביב. I grew up in Tel Aviv. This sentence stays the same for a male and for a female speaker. Obviously, if you grew up somewhere else, you can also say גדלתי בניו יורק. I grew up in New York. Or גדלתי בפריז. I grew up in Paris. Okay, so these were 10 lines you need for introducing yourself in Hebrew. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye. One of my hobbies.
Hi everyone, Edith here. Today we're going to talk about 10 responses to how are you? In Hebrew, of course. מה שלומך? How are you? מה שלומך? How are you? So yeah, like this is the most common way to ask people in Hebrew how they are. You can also say like, hey, what's up? Or, you know, how's it going? But the most simple way is מה שלומך? ואתה? And you? So after you've been asked how are you and you've given your response, you would ask the other person, and you? ואתה? אני בסדר. I'm fine. אני בסדר. I'm fine. Yeah, just בסדר is literally just fine. It can be, you know, fine. It can be fine. שלומי לא רע. I'm not bad. שלומי לא רע. I'm not bad. So I think people usually would say that after maybe they had a bit of a rough time, I don't know, like maybe at work or something personal, and then when people ask them how they're doing, so they would say, oh, I'm not bad, like, you know, it's getting better. גם שלומי טוב. I'm fine too. גם שלומי טוב. I'm fine too. When you say גם in the beginning of the sentence, it's the same as saying in English too, but in the end of the sentence. So in Hebrew you would say it first. גם שלומי טוב. אני ישנוני. I'm sleepy. אני ישנוני. I'm sleepy. I think nowadays it's like a very common thing to say, like, how are you doing? Oh, I'm sleepy. When do you guys actually like wake up? I only wake up after I have a cup of coffee and then maybe another hour. אני מרגיש רע. I'm feeling bad. אני מרגיש רע. I'm feeling bad. So if you're ill, usually yes, ill or having a headache, you would say that you feel bad. It's not so much as like an emotional thing, or, you know, I'm hurting, I'm sad. It's like, I feel bad, I'm ill. שלומי מצוין. I'm great. שלומי מצוין. I'm great. When you're really doing well, like you're really happy, it's like, I'm great. מצוין. איך הולך איתך? How have you been? איך הולך איתך? How have you been? So since in Hebrew we don't have as much tenses as English, and we don't have like all of the progressive tenses, it's just past, present, and future. When we try to ask like, oh, how have you been during the last few days? How have you been during the last few weeks? So we would say, איך הולך איתך? How are things going for you? Pretty much that's the literal translation. מה נשמע? What's up? מה נשמע? What's up? So this is like the number one most common expression in Israel when you ask people how they're doing, and it's very friendly and casual. Like when you say מה נשמע, it's just like saying what's up. And the literal translation, it's like saying, what is heard? Like, what do you have to tell me that is new? Please do. Please tell me. So that's it. That's מה נשמע. So thanks everyone. Thank you for watching that video. Today we discussed about how to respond to how are you. Please let me know in the comments below, like, what are the most surprising responses you ever gotten. It's like, oh, how are you? Yeah, my dog died. You know, stuff like that. And please don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like up this video. And also don't forget to get into HebrewPod101.com for more content and more Hebrew. And I will see you all next time. להתראות.
You are at a train station where you're attempting to buy an express ticket from a ticket machine. Which option should you choose for a round-trip ticket? Which option should you choose for a round-trip ticket? The option on the bottom left is for a round-trip ticket.
כרטיס הלוך וחזור.
You are at a train station where you've just bought an express ticket. Which train car, row, and seat number are you in? Which train car, row, and seat number are you in? The ticket says that you're in train car number 1 in the 8th row in seat C.
בכרטיס כתוב שאתה יושב בקרון מספר 1 בשורה השמינית במושב C.
You are at a train station where you're reading the train schedule for an express ticket that you've just bought. On which days are there no express trains running? On which days are there no express trains running? There are no trains running on Shabbat and on holidays.
אין רכבות מהירות בשבת ובחגים.
You are on a platform at a train station where you're waiting for your train. Suddenly, a message appears on the display. What does the message on the display mean? What does the message on the display mean? The display reads, "The next train will not stop."
הרכבת הבאה לא תעצור.
You are at a train station where you're looking for the best exit to catch a taxi. Which exit should you take to get to the taxi rank? Which exit should you take to get to the taxi rank? You should take the east exit in order to get to the taxi rank.
יציאה מזרחית.
Want to speak real Hebrew from your first lesson? Sign up for your free lifetime account at HebrewPod101.com.
בחנות הספרים, אישה שואלת משהו את המוכר. איזה ספר האישה מעוניינת לראות? סלח לי, הייתי רוצה לראות את הספר שעל המדף ההוא.
איזה ספר תרצי?
זה בנושא מכוניות.
רגע אחד בבקשה. זה?
כן, בדיוק.
בבקשה.
איזה ספר האישה מעוניינת לראות? בחנות הספרים, אישה שואלת משהו את המוכר. איזה ספר האישה מעוניינת לראות? סלח לי, הייתי רוצה לראות את הספר שעל המדף ההוא.
איזה ספר תרצי?
זה בנושא מכוניות.
רגע אחד בבקשה. זה?
כן, בדיוק.
בבקשה.
When learning a new language, we sometimes have a hard time with things like procrastination, discouragement, or failure. But don't panic. With a good strategy, you'll be able to overcome these difficulties. Are you ready to discover the 4 habits of successful learners? Number 1, optimize your time. When learning a language, it's important to dedicate time to your studies regularly, even if sometimes it's difficult. You're busy with school, work, family, or friends. But you can spread out your learning throughout the day. Study whenever you have small gaps of time in your busy schedule. This can be when you're on the metro, on your lunch break, or while you're exercising. Our podcast learning format fits perfectly into your tight schedule. Number 2, consistency with your chosen method. There are a lot of options when it comes to courses and learning materials. Switching from one method to another can confuse you and disrupt your progress. Focusing on one learning method will make a difference. Our method has been created and optimized by real teachers, so you can stick to it with confidence. Number 3, use your language background. Many languages share some commonalities. You can find words that look or sound similar, or even share the same grammar structure. A little bit of language background will give you an edge while learning. Number 4, study continuously. People are excited when they start learning a new language. The enthusiasm usually lasts until the first roadblock. This can lead to discouragement and procrastination. But don't burn yourself out. Learning a language is a marathon, not a sprint. Don't try to learn it all at once. Break things down into more digestible chunks. Learning step by step might feel slow, but it's an efficient way to learn a language. With patience, motivation, and good resources, you'll master the language. Remember, you can't learn a language overnight, but with motivation and these daily lessons, you'll be on the road to fluency.
איש מתקשר למרפאה. עד איזו שעה הוא צריך להגיע למרפאה? שלום, איך אפשר לעזור לך?
באיזה שעה אתם סוגרים היום?
אנחנו סוגרים בשעה 6, אבל בבקשה תגיע לפני 5:30.
בסדר. תודה.
עד איזו שעה הוא צריך להגיע למרפאה? איש מתקשר למרפאה. עד איזו שעה הוא צריך להגיע למרפאה? שלום, איך אפשר לעזור לך?
באיזה שעה אתם סוגרים היום?
אנחנו סוגרים בשעה 6, אבל בבקשה תגיע לפני 5:30.
בסדר. תודה.
ילד קורא מהיומן שלו. מהו הדבר הראשון שהילד עשה היום?
המזג אוויר היה נהדר היום. הלכתי לשחות בבריכה אחר הצהריים, והלכתי לראות סרט בערב. גם למדתי כל הבוקר. היה יום לא רע.
מהו הדבר הראשון שהילד עשה היום? ילד קורא מהיומן שלו. מהו הדבר הראשון שהילד עשה היום?
המזג אוויר היה נהדר היום. הלכתי לשחות בבריכה אחר הצהריים, והלכתי לראות סרט בערב. גם למדתי כל הבוקר. היה יום לא רע.
אישה ואיש מביטים בתצלום. באיזה תצלום הם מביטים? זה תצלום של קבוצת הכדורגל שהבן שלך בא לו? מיהו הבן שלך?
זה?
הוא הכי גבוה.
כן. הוא אפילו יותר גבוה ממני.
באיזה תצלום הם מביטים? אישה ואיש מביטים בתצלום. באיזה תצלום הם מביטים? זה תצלום של קבוצת הכדורגל שהבן שלך בא לו? מיהו הבן שלך?
זה?
הוא הכי גבוה.
כן. הוא אפילו יותר גבוה ממני.
In this lesson we learn some of the most common greetings used in Israel. אתם מוכנים? Are you ready? אז בואו נתחיל. So let's start. The most used greeting is Shalom. Shalom. We also saw it in the first lesson. Shalom simply means hi or hello. It can also mean goodbye. We use it when we meet, but also can use it when we part. Shalom means something like peace, so it makes the greeting very special. It is common to say shalom in both informal and formal situations, and at any time of the day. In the morning, you can also greet people with Boker Tov. Boker Tov, which means good morning. Boker is morning, and Tov is good. During the evening, we also say Erev Tov. Erev Tov. Erev is Hebrew for evening, so Erev Tov means good evening. Boker Tov and Erev Tov are used when we meet someone, but when we leave, we don't say them again. Another way to say goodbye in Hebrew is lehitraot. Le-hit-ra-ot. It is actually more common to use lehitraot than shalom when leaving. But most people in Israel just say bye. Bye! Now you can greet people in many different ways in Hebrew. Let's review them all again. When meeting people in formal and informal situations, Shalom. In the morning until the afternoon we say Boker Tov, and in the evening Erev Tov. When living in any situation, Lehitraot, or simply bye. It's easy, isn't it? Now it's time for Yana's insights. In formal situations, Israeli people commonly greet each other by shaking hands. On the other hand, if we meet someone we are very friendly with, we kiss each other on one cheek. Don't be afraid to do it with your Israeli friends. It's normal. את מדברת אנגלית, or סליחה, אתה מדבר אנגלית? Excuse me, do you speak English? We mentioned the word סליחה, which means excuse me in Hebrew. In this lesson, we are going to learn how to use slicha and other words when apologizing in Hebrew. Slicha is a very common word and can be used in many situations. We can use slicha in both formal and informal occasions, such as when we are ordering something in bars or restaurants. For example, סליחה, קפה אחד בבקשה. Excuse me, one coffee please. סליחה, קפה אחד, בבקשה. Do you remember what בבקשה means? We can also use it when asking a question. סליחה, איפה רחוב דיזינגוף? Excuse me, where is Dizengoff Street? Sometimes we also hear people say סליחה, which means excuse me, when we want to draw somebody's attention. Also, in a situation when you want to make your way through a crowd, for example, slicha is used. Israeli people use slicha also for apologizing. For example, if you accidentally bump into a person while making your way through that crowd. We also use the word אני מצטער or אני מצטערת if you really want to apologize. You also might hear this phrase translated as forgive me or I'm sorry in English. אני מצטערת. אני מצטערת. If you're a woman, and אני מצטער. אני מצטער. if you are a man. The phrase אני מצטער or אני מצטערת has a deeper meaning of apology than סליחה, although both mean I'm sorry. אני is I am, regardless of your gender, but the verb be sorry changes according to your gender. So מצטערת is I'm sorry or I apologize if it's a woman, and אני מצטער if it's a man. If you feel really bad about something and want to deepen the apology even more, you can just add מאוד to your apology, which simply means very much. We already used it in the lesson about self-introductions. Remember? Shalom, אני יאנה, נעים מאוד. You can also add מאוד to get אני מאוד מצטערת. אני מאוד מצטערת for a woman, or אני מאוד מצטער. אני מאוד מצטער for a man. It simply translates as I'm really sorry into English. But please remember that you cannot use מאוד with סליחה. Now it's time for Yana's insights. If you are not sure about what will be the proper phrase to use as an apology, it's always your safest bet to simply use סליחה. In this way, Israeli people will definitely appreciate your politeness. In this lesson, we're going to learn a very useful phrase. Do you speak English? If you find yourself in a situation where you need assistance in English, this phrase can be a lifesaver. And because you're asking it in Hebrew, you can be sure that everyone will understand what you're saying, even if the answer is no. As already mentioned in previous lessons, in Hebrew there is a difference between male and female speech. So if you want to ask a woman, say, את מדברת אנגלית? את מדברת אנגלית? In Hebrew, verbs change depending on the pronoun that is used, according to the gender of both the speaker and the addressee. את, in this case, is the female pronoun for you. So the verb מדברת, which means speak, refers to a female. For example, if I said, I speak English, it will be אני מדברת אנגלית. אני, as we learned already, means I am. אני is the only way you can say I am in Hebrew, regardless of one's gender. Then, מדברת is the female conjugation for speak or speaking. So, אני מדברת אנגלית will be used only by a female speaker. On the other hand, if you're asking a man if he speaks English, you say, אתה מדבר אנגלית? אתה מדבר אנגלית? אתה in this case is the male pronoun for you. So the verb מדבר, which means speak, refers to a man only. So if you're a man and want to say, I speak English, it will be אני מדבר אנגלית. It is important to notice that in Hebrew the pronoun and the verb change according to female, male, and also to singular or plural of the same sentence. So basically there are 4 ways to say each phrase. But don't worry, we will talk more about that later. For now, please only remember that you can use both את מדברת אנגלית and אתה מדבר אנגלית only if you're addressing one person. So let's review them once again. את מדברת אנגלית if you're asking a woman, and אתה מדבר אנגלית if you're asking a man. Adding סליחה, excuse me, the sentence becomes even more polite. סליחה, את מדברת אנגלית? סליחה, את מדברת אנגלית? Or, סליחה, אתה מדבר אנגלית? סליחה, אתה מדבר אנגלית? The responses you will receive could be one of these 3. כן, yes, כן. קצת, a little. קצת. לא, אני לא מדבר אנגלית. Or, לא, אני לא מדברת אנגלית. No, I don't speak English. לא, אני לא מדבר אנגלית. לא, אני לא מדברת אנגלית. To make every sentence negative in Hebrew, you only have to add לא before the verb, which simply means no. It's easy, isn't it? Now it's time for Yana's insights. For those of you who are not only English speakers, you can obviously use this question with any language you need. Israeli people study other European languages at school, so maybe you will get lucky. Just substitute Anglit with Russit for Russian, Italkit for Italian, Sfaradit for Spanish, and Germanit for German. In this lesson, we're going to learn how to use good manners as we thank people. אתם מוכנים? Are you ready? אז בואו נתחיל. So let's start. There are several ways to thank someone. Let's start with the easiest. It's just one word. תודה. תודה. תודה means thank you. When saying thank you very much, you just need to add רבה. תודה רבה. תודה רבה. רבה means a lot. So תודה רבה is like saying thank you very much. During the last lesson, we mentioned two ways of addressing someone, depending on his or her gender. תודה or תודה רבה can be used with anyone. But in case you want to personalize the greeting, there is another phrase you should use. If you want to thank a woman, you say תודה רבה לך. תודה רבה לך. Now, if you want to thank a man, you say תודה רבה לך. תודה רבה לך. Let's break this phrase down. לך means something like to you when you're talking to a woman. תודה רבה לך is thank you very much. לך is to you when you're talking to a man. תודה רבה לך is thank you very much. How do you answer? It's easy. There are two ways to answer. The first one is simple. You're welcome. בבקשה. בבקשה. It's the simplest way to answer. But it is more polite to say אין בעד מה. אין בעד מה. Its literal meaning is it's nothing, and it is a common and polite way to respond to someone thanking you. So when someone is saying תודה or תודה רבה to you, we can simply reply with בבקשה or אין בעד מה. Now it's time for Yana's insights. If you're not sure about whether to use תודה רבה לך or תודה רבה לך, keeping it simple is always your safest bet. תודה can be used with just about anyone, anywhere, and anytime. In this lesson, you are going to learn how to introduce yourself in Hebrew. In Hebrew, there is no formal and informal language. You can use this introduction in both cases and keep it simple. However, in Hebrew, there is a difference between male and female language. Let's first see how Israeli people introduce themselves in a simple way. Shalom, ani Yana. Na'im meod. Hi, I'm Yana. It's a pleasure. Shalom, ani Yana. Na'im meod. Start by saying Shalom, ani, then saying your name. Shalom, ani Yana. Finally say Na'im meod. Shalom, ani Yana. Na'im meod. And now let's see the same sentence if you wish to be more specific in addressing the person you are introduced to. If you're introducing yourself to a woman, you should say Shalom, ani Yana. Na'im meod lehakir otach. Hi, I'm Yana. It's a pleasure to meet you. Shalom, ani Yana. Na'im meod lehakir otach. If you are talking to a man, you should say Shalom, ani Yana. Na'im meod lehakir otcha. Hi, I'm Yana. It's a pleasure to meet you. Shalom, ani Yana. Na'im meod lehakir otcha. So, what has changed from the previous introduction? Let's take a close look at this together. The last part of the introduction has been changed based on the gender of the person you are talking to. Shalom, ani Yana. Na'im meod lehakir otach for a woman versus Shalom, ani Yana. Na'im meod lehakir otcha for a man. Ani, in this case, has not been changed, and in both cases stands for I am, regardless of your gender. The last sounds of the last word changes, however. Otach, if you are talking to a woman, and otcha, if you are speaking to a man. One more time. The simple way to introduce yourself in Hebrew is Shalom, ani Yana, na'im meod. In case you want to personalize the greeting, you say שלום, אני יאנה. נעים מאוד להכיר אותך. שלום, אני יאנה. נעים מאוד להכיר אותך. Now it's time for Yana's insights. When you introduce yourself, it's a good habit to shake hands in Israel. If you don't want to worry about using the right word for men and women, just say na'im me'od, as I said at the beginning of this lesson. There is no cultural importance if you add the last part to the introduction. It just makes the sentence more complete.
Are you feeling confident as a beginner-level language learner? Are you ready to move up to the intermediate level? Here are some tips to help you make that leap and advance your language learning progress. Tip number 1, determine your skill level. It's important to look across your skills in the major language competencies: listening, speaking, writing, and reading. By taking our level assessment test, you can review your skills in each competency and see your strengths and weaknesses. Keep in mind it's normal to be better in some skills than others. Premium Plus users can take our level assessment test and get personalized recommendations and learning pathways based on your results. Once you've figured out which skills need work, it's time to take action. No matter which of your language skills need to be improved, make sure you choose a method that's both effective and fun to help maintain your regular learning routine. Tip number 2, listening. The most effective way to build your listening comprehension is by building a strong vocabulary. The more vocab you master, the easier it will be to understand the context and details of the conversation. Songs in the target language are a key listening tool that will teach you common, everyday vocabulary. By learning and memorizing the lyrics, you're building up your vocabulary. If you really want your listening skills to take off, listen to our podcasts. We have hundreds of hours of audio lessons for you to listen to. Before you know it, you'll be able to understand shows and movies. Tip number 3, speaking. Add speaking elements to your language routine. Try shadowing podcasts, repeating along while you listen. Match the native speaker's pronunciation and intonation. This is a fantastic way to improve your fluency and accuracy. You can also find a partner for conversation exchange. A partner can help correct your mistakes and teach you more natural ways to phrase your ideas. Tip number 4, writing. An easy way to start writing more often is by keeping a one-sentence journal. Write one sentence in a journal every day. It doesn't take a lot of time and is a great habit for beginners to build a routine. You have to be consistent to make improvements. Ask native speakers to correct your writing to improve even faster. You can submit sentences and phrases to your teacher using Premium Plus. Tip number 5, reading. Reading is a skill you can improve by yourself. There's no need to rush. It doesn't matter if you read 1 or 100 pages at a time. What matters is that you understand what you read. Write down new words as you read them to practice later. If there's an audio version, read along with the narrator. It'll help you read at a slightly faster speed than normal. You can use the audio that comes with each of our lessons. Bonus tip, never give up. Where do your language skills currently stand? Where do you want them to be? How do you get there? Whatever your goal is, make it clear and part of your life. You'll reach it if you stay focused and positive. And if you really want your skills to take off, make use of our tools and resources. They're designed to help you get to the next level in the fastest, easiest, and most fun way. Just click the link in the description to sign up for a free lifetime account. Sign up takes less than 30 seconds. Click the link in the description and start learning right away. I'll see you there. Bye!
Must know expressions of agreeing and disagreeing with somebody, in Hebrew, of course. אני מסכים איתך לחלוטין. I couldn't agree with you more. אני מסכים איתך לחלוטין. I couldn't agree with you more. Yes, so like when you really want to emphasize your opinion is the same as somebody else's and like you feel very strongly and passionately about it, it's like, I couldn't agree more. אני מסכים איתך לחלוטין. Totally, 100%. כמובן. Of course. כמובן. Of course. So if somebody asks you something or he wants to hear your agreement about something, you'll say, oh, yes, yes, you're absolutely right, of course, כמובן. אני מניח, I guess so. אני מניח, I guess so. So the literal translation of like the verb להניח, אני מניח, it's assume. So it's kind of like saying, instead of I guess so, it's like I assume so. That's the literal translation. בדיוק התכוונתי להגיד את זה. I was just going to say that. בדיוק התכוונתי להגיד את זה. I was just going to say that. It's like you took the words out of my mouth, I was just gonna say that. We're thinking the same thing, great minds. כן, אתה צודק. Yes, you're right. כן, אתה צודק. Yes, you're right. This is often like if somebody gives you an advice and you know that their advice is solid. So it's like, yeah, you're right. Sometimes advices are hard to follow. So sometimes you will say it like, yeah, I know, you're right. And sometimes like, yeah, I know, אתה טועה. You're wrong. אתה טועה. You're wrong. So this is like very abrupt and kind of a harsh way to tell somebody that he's wrong. But I would say that's probably the most commonly used, at least in Israel. People are quite, they're out there and they speak their minds. And if they don't agree with you, they'll just tell you straight to the face, like, you're wrong. לא נראה לי. I don't think so. לא נראה לי. I don't think so. So it's like, if you're maybe 90% sure about something that it's not, or you just, somebody asks you something and you don't feel it, you just say, I don't think so. לא נראה לי. Which literally translates to, I don't see so. אולי. Maybe. אולי. Maybe. This was like one of my favorite words when I was a little kid. Like people would ask me things and I would just say, אולי. Which just literally is maybe. אני לא מסכים. לא. I don't agree. No. אני לא מסכים. לא. I don't agree. No. So when you say אני לא מסכים in Hebrew, it can either mean I don't agree or I won't allow it. It depends to who you're talking to. Like I would maybe say it to my dog and I'll tell him אני לא מסכימה, and then he'll just stop doing what he's doing. But if you're not agreeing with somebody's opinion, you can also say אני לא מסכים. לא. אני מסכים. I agree. אני מסכים. I agree. I don't know, I seem to use that much less than don't agree. Maybe it's just me.
Want to speak real Hebrew from your first lesson? Sign up for your free lifetime account at HebrewPod101.com.
Hobbies. תחביבים. What are your hobbies? לשחק שחמט. To play chess. When I was in elementary school, we actually had a chess lesson. כשאני הייתי בבית הספר היסודי, היה לי שיעור שחמט. Yeah, that didn't go very well for me. Never won. לאסוף בולים. To collect stamps. לאסוף בולים. My father had a stamp collection. אבא שלי אסף בולים. Then he gave me the collection and I obviously lost it. So, לגלוש באינטרנט. To surf the net. Is that a hobby? It's more like a way of life, I'd say. You surf the net too much. אתה גולש באינטרנט יותר מדי. לשחק פוקר. To play poker. Okay, the next hobby is to play poker. And this is a common hobby in Israel. I went over to a friend of mine to play poker. הלכתי לחבר שלי לשחק פוקר. I actually never played poker. I don't even know how to do that. צילום. Photography. I always wanted to take a photography class. תמיד רציתי ללכת לחוג צילום. I never did that though. Kinda lazy. Fruits! פירות. Single is פרי. So, fruits, exciting. Yeah. תפוח. Apple. Green apples are my favorite. תפוחים ירוקים הם התפוחים האהובים עליי. אבטיח. Watermelon. אבטיח, plural is אבטיחים. ביפן יש אבטיחים מרובעים. Japan has square watermelons. It's true. Google it. תאנה. Fig. I actually love figs. I have a friend who can't eat them because she says that their insides look like worms. Sorry, that's a picture you won't be able to get out of your head. לסבתא שלי היה עץ תאנה. My grandmother had a fig tree. Mishmesh, apricot. The word is mishmesh, but Israelis usually say mishmish. קניתי בשוק קילו מישמישים. I bought 1 kilo of apricots in the market. דובדבן, cherry. This event was the cherry on my cream. האירוע הזה היה הדובדבן שבקצפת. Rooms. What can you possibly say about rooms? We're going to find out together. חדר שינה. Bedroom. Room in Hebrew is חדר, so חדר שינה is literally sleeping room. חדר השינה נמצא בקצה המסדרון. The bedroom is in the end of the hall. מטבח. Kitchen. מטבח, kitchen, my favorite part of every house. Unfortunately, המטבח שלי קטן מאוד. My kitchen is very small. You can barely move in it. שירותים, bathroom. סליחה, איפה השירותים? Excuse me, where's the bathroom? That's an important sentence to learn in Hebrew. Memorize it. Salon, living room, where you have all your parties. Salon. יש לי ציור של פיקאסו בסלון. I have a Picasso painting in my living room. חדר אוכל, dining room. חדר אוכל, which literally means food room. That's way more fun than dining room, food room. אל תיכנס לחדר האוכל, נשברה שם צלחת. Don't go in the dining room. I broke a plate in there. Colors, צבעים. Let's start. חום, brown. Okay, brown is a nice warm color. My eyes are brown. העיניים שלי חומות. אפור, gray. There's this song in Hebrew. The gray today is very gray. האפור היום אפור מאוד. It's poetic. This is why I like it. אדום, red. אני לא יכולה לסבול יין אדום. I can't stand red wine. I can't even stand the smell. That's a true story. צהוב, yellow. חמניות הן צהובות. Sunflowers are yellow. ירוק, green. לאמא שלי יש עיניים ירוקות. My mother has green eyes. Months of the year, חודשי השנה. ינואר, January. יום ההולדת שלי הוא בינואר. My birthday is January. מרץ, March. מזג האוויר מתחיל להתחמם במרץ. The weather starts to get warm in March, at least in Israel. יוני, June. יוני הוא החודש האחרון ללימודים. June is the last month of school. אוגוסט, August. באוגוסט, תל אביב היא כמו מרק. In August, Tel Aviv is like a soup. Okay, because it's so unbelievably hot and humid, you feel like you're swimming in soup when you walk down the street. Yeah, that's maybe not the best time to visit Israel. October, ליל כל הקדושים חל באוקטובר. Halloween is in October. Halloween obviously is not an Israeli holiday, but in Israel we do celebrate Purim, which is a Jewish holiday in which you dress up and have fun. It's a great holiday. Look it up.
Want to speak real Hebrew from your first lesson? Sign up for your free lifetime account at HebrewPod101.com.
10 foods that will kill you faster. אטריות מנה חמה. Instant noodles, which we usually call it מנה חמה. after the brand. I mean, it's not always noodles, but it's always bad for you. It's actually my sister's favorite food. אחותי ממש אוהבת מנה חמה. My sister really loves instant noodles. ארוחות קפואות, frozen meals. כשאין לי זמן, אני מחממת לי ארוחה קפואה. When I don't have time, I heat up a frozen meal. You gotta do what you gotta do. בשר מעובד, processed meat. היום כולם יודעים שבשר מעובד הוא לא בריא. Today everybody knows that processed meat is unhealthy. מרגרינה, margarine. בעוגיות האלה יש מרגרינה. These cookies have margarine in them. Yuck. משקאות אנרגיה, energy drinks. Because I think it's gross, but people do that, so... הוא אוהב לערבב משקאות אנרגיה עם אלכוהול. He likes to mix energy drinks with alcohol. Right, it's a common combination. ממתקים, candy. אסור לך לאכול ממתקים לפני ארוחת הערב. You're not allowed to eat candy before dinner. Oops. פופקורן למיקרוגל. Microwave popcorn. That's so sad because I love it. קניתי 3 חבילות של פופקורן למיקרוגל. I bought 3 packs of microwave popcorn. I don't care, it's unhealthy. Chips. Potato chips. אני אקח צ'יפס וקולה בבקשה. I'll have French fries and a Coke, please. Actually, I'm not sure what you mean by potato chips, but when Israelis say chips, we mean French fries. When talking about crisps or whatever, we call it by the brand name. We don't really have a name for that. קוטלי חזיר, bacon, though we usually say bacon. הרבה ישראלים לא אוכלים בייקון, כי זה לא כשר. A lot of Israelis don't eat bacon because it's not kosher. שתייה מוגזת, סודה. הפסקתי לקנות שתייה מוגזת, זה לא בריא. I stopped buying soda. It's unhealthy. Fun fact, when Israelis say soda, we mean bubbly water. No flavor, no sugar. But if you want to drink something like Coke or Fanta or whatever, we would call it by the brand name or שתייה מוגזת. New Year's resolutions. You know, those decisions we make every year so that we can feel guilty afterwards when we don't follow through? Yeah, so let's learn 10 of these. Let's start. לאכול בריא. To eat healthy. I make this decision once a week, and then I go celebrate it with pizza. לבלות יותר זמן עם המשפחה. To spend more time with the family. This is always a good resolution. להוריד במשקל. To lose weight. We also say לרזות, which means to lose weight, but it literally means to get thinner. לרזות. להפסיק לעשן. To quit smoking. My best advice for you is don't start, but if you've started, it's never too late to stop. להתעמל בקביעות. To exercise regularly. You really should do it, and you don't have to do something boring like running. It can be something fun. לחסוך כסף. To save money. Well, when you learn Hebrew, it's a bit hard to say לחסוך כסף, but you should try it. Come on. Practice. ללמוד משהו חדש. To learn something new. Like hula hooping. No, I'm kidding. לקרוא יותר. To read more. השנה החלטתי לקרוא יותר. This year, I decided to read more. We do it a lot, don't we? We're like, yeah, I'm on vacation, I'm gonna read so much, and then spend most of your time with your phone. לשתות פחות. To drink less. Yeah, I'll drink to that. ללמוד עברית. עם עבריתpod101.com. To learn Hebrew with hebrewpod101.com. I see you're doing that already, so good for you keeping up with your New Year's resolution.
10 ways to remember Hebrew words. אני לומדת על השורשים של מילים, ואיך מילים שונות קשורות אחת לשנייה. I learn about the roots of the words and how different words are related to each other. אני לומדת על השורשים של מילים ואיך מילים שונות קשורות אחת לשנייה. I learn about the roots of the words and how different words are related to each other. In Hebrew, we have something called a root system. Words from similar fields of concept or from similar source would have a lot of basics, the same basic consonants. So for instance, the word airplane is matos, and the word flight is tisa, and the word for the verb flying is latus. So you can hear there are slight changes in the words, and sometimes it's a verb and sometimes it's a noun, but those two letters of t and s are still there, and that kind of makes it easier to remember. אני מדברת כמה שאני יכולה עם דוברי שפת אם של השפה. I speak as often as possible with native speakers. אני מדברת כמה שאני יכולה עם דוברי שפת אם של השפה. I speak as often as possible with native speakers of the language. This is very important because native speakers can, fix your little mistakes and your little bugs and maybe teach you some new words or some modern words or some slang that you might not learn otherwise, especially some rough slang. And that makes your Hebrew speaking much more natural than just studying it from a book or from a teacher. אני מנסה להשתמש במילה חדשה במשפט פשוט, כך שאני לומדת משפטים שלמים, ולא רק מילים בודדות. I try to use the new word in a simple sentence, so I learn whole phrases, not just individual words. אני מנסה להשתמש במילה חדשה במשפט פשוט, כך שאני לומדת משפט שלם ולא רק מילה בודדת. I try to use the new word in a simple sentence, so I study a whole phrase and not just an individual word. When you just learn a word, you might not be able to actually use it when you want to, when you find the need to use that word, even though you know it somewhere in the back of your head. But when you create like a situation in your mind in which you will use this word, or a phrase that's very, very useful for that specific word, then you kind of have it more handy in your memory to pull it out whenever you actually need to. אני מנסה לחשוב בעברית כך שזה יעשה טבעי לתהליך החשיבה שלי. I try to think in Hebrew so it becomes natural to my thought process. אני מנסה לחשוב בעברית כך שזה יעשה טבעי לתהליך החשיבה שלי. I try to think in Hebrew so it becomes a natural part of my thinking process. I remember years ago when I just studied English and I was just a little girl, all of a sudden I found myself like thinking in English and dreaming in English, and that's a really important thing to do also, because when you think it, you can speak it. If you don't think before you speak, then nothing is going to come out. It's going to come out very like, If you think about stuff, not just before you're speaking, but just in general, making conversations in your head, that would really help you use it in a very, very fluent way. אני מקשיבה לשירים ומשננת את המילים. I listen to songs and memorize the lyrics. אני מקשיבה לשירים ומשננת את המילים. I listen to songs and memorize the lyrics. This is like one of my favorite ways to actually learn new language and learn new vocabulary and new sentences. It's just a fun way, and there's something about a song that you won't forget so easily, like just speaking. It's a song, it's stuck in your head and you want to sing it. It comes like from somewhere in your soul. And when you memorize the word, which is something that I love doing, I love knowing the lyrics of songs, then it just makes you feel like so much more comfortable. And I did that with French, and I actually did that with German too. And I studied quite a bit of German just from German music. So that's kind of fun. אני מקשרת מילים חדשות עם מילים שנשמעות דומה בשפת האם שלי. I associate new words with words that sound similar in my native language. אני מקשרת מילים חדשות עם מילים שנשמעות דומה בשפת האם שלי. I associate new words with similar sounding words in my own native language. So this is also a good way to remember individual words, and to be honest, it kind of sometimes create really funny situations or very funny associations. It's really, really good, because if something makes you laugh, you're not going to forget it. If something makes you smile, you're going to remember it better than just something that you repeated over and over. אני משתמשת בחזרות, קוראת, כותבת, וחוזרת על מילים שוב ושוב. I use repetition, reading, writing, and speaking words over and over again. אני משתמשת בחזרות, קוראת, כותבת, וחוזרת על מילים שוב ושוב. I use repetition, reading, writing, and speaking words over and over again. So sometimes, you can't escape it. That's something that you just kind of have to do, You have to keep repeating stuff to memorize them, to remember them, especially when it comes to grammar. Sometimes there's no other way, and repeating is the best way to do it, I guess. אני צופה בתוכניות טלוויזיה וסרטים מישראל בשביל להיחשף לאוצר מילים יומיומי ולקצב דיבור טבעי. I watch Israeli TV shows and movies with English subtitles to expose myself to everyday vocabulary and a natural speaking flow. אני צופה בתוכניות טלוויזיה וסרטים מישראל בשביל להיחשף לאוצר מילים יומיומי ולקצב דיבור טבעי. I watch Israeli TV shows and movies to expose myself to daily vocabulary and a natural speaking flow. This is how I studied English. What I studied in school hardly even helped me. I used to watch English TV all the time with Hebrew subtitles, and now I'm doing the same with a different language as well. So it's really important just watching TV, because when people are going to speak with you and they see, oh, this is not your native language and maybe you're struggling, they might dumb down the way they speak to you and speak slower in very simple words. But when you're watching TV, you're seeing how people actually speak. And then you also have the opportunity to see the translation below, and you can compare what they're saying with what you're reading and what you know already. And quite quickly you would expand your vocabulary and significantly improve the naturality of your speaking. אני מנסה לקרוא ספרים פשוטים בעברית ולתרגל קריאה ללא ניקוד בשביל לשפר את יכולות הקריאה שלי. I try to read simple books in Hebrew and practice reading without nikud to improve my reading ability. אני מנסה לקרוא ספרים פשוטים בעברית ולתרגל קריאה ללא ניקוד בשביל לשפר את יכולות הקריאה שלי. I try to read simple books in Hebrew and also practice reading without nikud to improve my reading ability. So, reading without nikud is something that you really have to practice. And to be honest, most places you will go, there won't be any nikud at all. People use nikud today for kids' books and poetry books, even if it's simple poetry, high poetry, they always use nikud no matter what. But in regular books and street signs and menus, you'll never see it. As much as you can, try reading without it, and starting with nikud, slowly progressing to books without it. That's something that's really important, because otherwise you'll always find yourself struggling reading stuff around you. אני לומדת עברית עם HebrewPod101.com בשביל ללמוד משפטים מודרניים בעברית עם מילים שימושיות ליום-יום. I learn Hebrew with HebrewPod101.com to learn modern phrases and actual usable words. אני לומדת עברית עם HebrewPod101.com בשביל ללמוד משפטים מודרניים בעברית עם מילים שימושיות ליום-יום. I learn Hebrew with HebrewPod101.com to learn modern phrases and actual usable words. So yeah, HebrewPod gives you the opportunity to listen to how Israeli people actually speak and what they actually say, whereas if you study in a classroom or from a textbook, most often some of the words and phrases there would be kind of archaic and not something that people really use. So when you talk to people, they would know, oh yeah, he studied in an ulpan, he studied in from a textbook. And if you sound more naturally and you speak in more modern phrases, they would think, oh yeah, this guy has been living here, he's talking to Israeli people, he knows some stuff. Happy words, yay! Sameach, happy. Sameach, happy. מי שטוב לו ושמח, כף עמך. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. So obviously there's also a Hebrew translation to this song, and I remember it from kindergarten, and I didn't even know that it was in English originally. I guess I found out somehow, but yeah, you know, I think they have it in like every language. מי שטוב לו ושמח כף עמך. יפהפה. Beautiful. יפהפה. Beautiful. הדירה שלהם פשוט יפהפייה. Their apartment is absolutely beautiful. Obviously, the word יפהפה, beautiful, comes from the word יפה, pretty. It's so pretty that you have to repeat the word twice. Like, is it יפה? No, it's יפהפה. לאהוב, to love. לאהוב, to love. אני אוהב שוקולד ועוגות גבינה. I love chocolate and cheesecakes. This example sentence is also from like a Hebrew song for kids, and it's a very famous song about a kid who sings about all the things that he loves. And he's saying, אני אוהב שוקולד ועוגות גבינה. He loves chocolate and cheesecakes, and he loves food, and he loves his sister and his mom and his dad, but most of all, he loves himself. נהדר, great. נהדר, great. איך היה הסרט? אוי, הוא היה פשוט נהדר. How was the movie? Oh, it was simply wonderful. נהדר can be great, it can be wonderful, it can be magnificent, and it comes from the word הדר, which means glamour. נהדר, magnificent. נמרץ, lively. נמרץ, lively. יש לנו אחד במשרד, והוא כל הזמן כל כך נמרץ. We have a guy at our office, and he's always so lively. We all know that one guy, right? אדיב, kind. אדיב, kind. חשוב להיות אדיבים לזולת. It's important to be kind to one another. You know, like on the bus, if you see a pregnant lady or an older man, like, and they're standing up and you're sitting down, just stand up for them, let them have a seat. That's a very kind thing to do, and it's very adiv.
Want to speak real Hebrew from your first lesson? Sign up for your free lifetime account at HebrewPod101.com.
מצחיק, funny. מצחיק, funny. אוי, את אוהבי את הבחור הזה, הוא כזה מצחיק. Oh, you're gonna love that guy, he's so funny. I know that sounds like a euphemism, but it's not. Just, you know, funny is funny. I think some people nowadays, like, they use, oh, you're so funny. When they said that in Hebrew, את כזאת מצחיקה. Like, oh, I think you're confusing. Oh, I think you're mistaken. In like a little bit of a passive-aggressive way. But I think 98% of, you know, when people use that word, it's just mean, you know, funny. אדיר, awesome. אדיר, awesome. ראית את האפליקציה שהתקנתי? היא פשוט אדירה. Did you see the app that I installed? It's just awesome. So this is more of like a slang word. When you say about something, אדיר, it's like, it was great, it was awesome. Absolutely awesome. אדיר. נפלא, fantastic. נפלא, fantastic. אכלנו קינוח נפלא במסעדה. We had a fantastic dessert at the restaurant. So, נפלא is less of a slangish way of saying like the same thing, but it's a bit more, you know, kind of like upscale, a bit more respectful. Fantastic. נפלא. להתגלגל מצחוק. Rolling on the floor laughing. להתגלגל מצחוק. Rolling on the floor laughing. הייתי בסטנדאפ אתמול, ופשוט התגלגלתי מצחוק. I was at a stand-up comedy yesterday, and I just rolled on the floor laughing. So this phrase in English, usually people use it like online, and they write R-O-F-L, like ruffle, and it's like meaning, oh yeah, I'm like rolling on the floor laughing right now. But in Hebrew, you also kind of use it when you're actually talking to somebody face to face. It's not just like an internet kind of a a meme phrase. It's just something that actually happens, like you're just rolling on the floor. 10 Israeli foods. Nom, 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 nom. Let's get started. Gefilte fish. Gefilte fish. Gefilte fish. Gefilte fish. כל שנה בפסח, סבתא שלי מכינה gefilte fish. Every year on Passover, my grandmother makes gefilte fish. Gefilte fish is more of a East European Jewish food, and it's like chopped up fish made into like little bowls, and there's a piece of carrot on top, and it's usually served cold, and there's like gelatinous stuff around it, and it's kind of grayish. I'm like, no. Hummus. 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 אני אוהבת לנגב חומוס עם פיתה. I like to eat hummus with pita. I think anywhere in the Middle East where you eat hummus, which is pretty much everywhere in the Middle East, you take like a piece of pita bread, which is like flat bread, and you wipe the hummus in like a circular motion like that. There was like an old commercial in Israel when somebody wiped the hummus like that, and everybody looked at him like, oh, you're so crazy. Like you're supposed to do it like that, not like that. So, tahina, tahini, tahina, tahini. אני שמה טחינה על כל דבר. I put tahini on anything. If you don't know what it is, it's like a sesame paste. When it's in its raw form, it's just really sesame. And you can make it sweet, mix it up with honey, or usually people make it not non-sweet and eat it with hummus, and they put like lemon and garlic inside. If you're a vegetarian or something, or vegan, then eat a lot of tahini. It's really, really good for you. מעורב ירושלמי. Jerusalem mixed grill. מעורב ירושלמי. Jerusalem mixed grill. נסעתי לאבו גוש לאכול מעורב ירושלמי. I went to Abu Ghosh to eat Jerusalem mixed grill. Jerusalem mixed grill is like, it's really bad. It's a skewer and it has like chicken parts, which is like chicken liver and hearts and I don't know, like maybe kidneys or something. I don't eat those kind of stuff. I think it's really bad. I don't think you're supposed to eat parts of the body that filter toxins. And if you cannot eat meat at all, which unfortunately I can't, but if you can do that, then it's better not to. And some people really like it. I think a lot of people from Jerusalem, like, they swear by it. It's delicious. They eat it in a pita or whatever, but I mean, no. Matzah. Matzo. Matzah. Matzo. בזמן פסח אני אוכלת רק מצות. During Passover, I only eat matzo. There's like a whole argument if matzos are like tasty or not. I think they're not. It's incredibly dry. And if you eat too much, then you'll get really, really bloated. Super bloated. Salat Israeli. Israeli salad. Salat Israeli. Israeli salad. אני מכינה סלט ישראלי עם מלפפון ועגבניה. I make Israeli salad with cucumber and tomato. Israeli salad is a lot like a Greek salad, and it's pretty much like cucumber and tomato always. Some people like onions. I think most people like onions in it, and parsley, and then you just put some olive oil and lemon. Some people like to chop it like really big pieces like Greek salad, and some people like it very, very small. I don't really care as long as it's tasty. Falafel. 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 אני אוהבת לאכול פלאפל בפיתה עם מלא טחינה. I like to eat falafel in a pita with loads of tahini. So if you don't know what falafel is like little balls made out of chickpeas, and they're deep fried, and then you put them in like a pita with some salad and tahini or hummus, and some people add like French fries inside, which is kind of cute. It's really good. It's vegan. It's not the healthiest thing because, I mean, it's deep fried, but some people make them at home and they bake them, and they just put a bit of oil in it, which makes it a lot healthier. And chickpeas are very good for you, and they have a lot of protein in it, and a lot of calcium and good stuff. Tasty and healthy-ish. Ptitim. Israeli couscous. Ptitim. Israeli couscous. הכי אני אוהבת את הפתיתים של אמא. My favorite thing is my mom's Israeli couscous. Ptitim or Israeli couscous is kind of like orzo, if you know that. It looks like rice or like tiny, tiny balls, but it's made out of pasta dough, and you can put it in salads, or you can make like some sort of casserole out of it. And I think it goes really, really well with zucchini. It pretty much goes with anything, and it's really good. Kugel Yerushalmi, Jerusalem noodle pie. Kugel Yerushalmi, Jerusalem noodle pie. אני נוסעת ל100 שערים לאכול קוגל ירושלמי. I'm going to go to 100 שערים to eat Jerusalem noodle pie. Usually I don't like this type of food, but this is really good. It's like noodles, and they put maybe some eggs to make it all stick together, and sugar and cinnamon, and they bake it for a long time. And then it's kind of like bread pudding, but more stiff, and it's really tasty. Shakshuka, 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 shakshuka. אני אוהבת לטבול חלה בשקשוקה. I like to dip challah bread in shakshuka. So challah bread is like braided bread that people usually eat on Saturdays, but you can also have it pretty much any other day. It's just white bread. It's kind of nice. And shakshuka is poached eggs in tomato sauce. It's originally from Morocco, I believe, but it kind of made its way into Israel, and it's delicious. You can make it spicy or not spicy. If you like take the bread and dip it inside, and you get like yolk, and you get tomato sauce and some peppers, and it's really good. 10 phrases for bad students, which I'm sure you are not. Let's get started. להבריז, skip class. להבריז, skip class. אני רוצה להבריז משיעור ספורט. I want to skip gym class. The verb להבריז, it's kind of a slang. I don't think it has like any specific origin to it. It's just like made up. להיות בריון, being a bully. להיות בריון, being a bully. אני מבקשת ממך אף פעם לא להיות בריון. I'm asking of you, never be a bully. The hardest thing today is that bullying kind of shifted from being inside the school grounds to like being more online, which is so much harder to control and so much harder to see. It's not a good experience, obviously. I think this is something that should disappear. להיכשל במקצוע, fail a class. להיכשל במקצוע, fail a class. נכשלתי במתמטיקה, אז אני צריכה ללמוד בקיץ. I failed math, so I need to study during the summer. This has never happened to me, but I know it happened to some people that I know that they failed class in like junior high or high school, and they don't automatically just keep you, like, have you do the same grade all over again, because this is silly. You might have like really good grades in other things, so you might do some classes during the summer and like retake the test, and if you pass it, then you go to the next grade. Just okay. להציק, to tease. להציק, to tease. בחטיבת ביניים, הבנים מציקים לבנות. In junior high, the boys tease the girls. Yeah, this happens a lot in junior high. I think boys should be punished more severely for those kind of things, and they should be explained better, like, what are the consequences of what they're doing, because it has a lot of cultural effects later on, I believe. It's not a good thing. לישון בשיעור, to sleep in class. לישון בשיעור, to sleep in class. בשיעורי היסטוריה, אני תמיד ישנה בשיעור. In history classes, I always sleep during class. I know some people in India work for years to achieve that, but I have that naturally. I just go like that. לרמות במבחן, to cheat on a test. לרמות במבחן, to cheat on a test. לרמות במבחן זה לא מוסרי. To cheat on a test is immoral. I have to admit, did that once. But if you really cheat a lot, you know, some people do that, or if you cheat on the big stuff, especially in university, it's very immoral, you know. People fight for places in classes, and people who are not really talented enough to be there, then they shouldn't. לא לעשות שיעורי בית. Not doing homework. לא לעשות שיעורי בית. Not doing homework. אתה לא יכול כל פעם לא לעשות שיעורי בית. You can't just not do your homework every time. Don't forget, like, when you're doing homework, it's your teacher's homework to check them, and that's not easy too, and she has so much more to do than you. So just be gracious and just do them. עצלן, lazy. עצלן, lazy. כשלמדתי באוניברסיטה, הייתי מאוד עצלן. When I was studying in the university, I was very lazy. There's a tendency for people, even if they were really hardworking, like in high school and stuff, when they reach university or college, like they get super lazy. Laziness is not necessarily a bad thing. You know, they say that if you want something done quickly, then ask a lazy person because they will find the fastest and easiest way to do that. It's true, like lazy people tend to be a bit more creative and more innovative or efficient. Being lazy, it's not always a bad thing. It's just don't be a slacker. שובב, mischievous. שובב, mischievous. גיא הוא ילד מאוד שובב. Guy is a very mischievous kid. It's like a cute word in Hebrew and in English, like it's kind of cutesy, but I think a lot of times teachers especially use that word as a bit of a euphemism to speak about a kid who's like out of control. You know, if the kid is out of control, just say like, dude, get a hold of your kid, all right? גנבה ספרותית, plagiarism. גנבה ספרותית, plagiarism. היום, בזכות האינטרנט, קל מאוד לאתר גנבה ספרותית. These days, because of the internet, it's very easy to find plagiarism. People back in the day used to plagiarize from like the encyclopedia and stuff, so the fact that you even open the encyclopedia and just copy whatever was in there, it's a bit more of a hard work than just Google something and copy paste. But today, if a sentence sounds a bit too sophisticated, a teacher can just Google that phrase and find the source. So today it really doesn't pay off to do that. It's just so easy to find. Just be original and write your own stuff. Hello everybody, Edith here. Welcome to Hebrew Top Words. And today we are going to talk about must-know particles for Hebrew learners, prepositions, and conjunctions. Let's do it. El, to. El, to. אני הולך אל חברה שלי ברגל. I'm walking to my friend. So we use el as to, but we use it usually when you're going to see people or people's houses, and not for like just random places like school or the post office. So when we use a particular name, we can use either el or le. Which is what we'll also use for places. Me, from. Me, from. אני חוזר מירושלים מחר בבוקר. I'm coming back from Jerusalem tomorrow morning. So me is much more simple. It has no variations, and it's just always when you use from, you use me. So here's another example, and I want you to please notice that sometimes when we say me, it kind of sounds like me, but the meaning is the same. For instance, אני מתל אביב. I am from Tel Aviv. עם, with. עם, with. הילד הולך עם הכלב לטייל. The child is walking with the dog. Im in the letter ein always means with. Oftentimes, even Hebrew speakers sometimes confuse im with ein, with the letter ein, which is with im in an aleph, which means if. So please do your best not to get confused. I'll give you another example for im, with. אני הולכת עם החבר שלי לסרט. I am going with my boyfriend to a movie. בלי, without. בלי, without. אני לא יכולה לרקוד בלי הנעליים שלי. I can't dance without my shoes. So the word bli always means without. I can give you a very common example of the usage of the word bli, which is kind of a saying. ללכת עם, להרגיש בלי. That means going with and feeling without. It has many uses, and not only for commercials. ו, and, ו, and. חבריי הטובים הם דוד ואבנר. My best friends are David and Avner. Ve is extremely common, probably the most common of all the prepositions. And I remember I asked a friend once, how does Hebrew sound to them? Like, if he doesn't understand Hebrew and I talk Hebrew, what does it sound like? And he said it sounds a lot like just ve 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 ve. So it's very common. Ki, because. Ki, because. העכבר ברח כי הוא ראה את החתול. The mouse ran away because it saw the cat. Ki is a very short word to say because, and it's very convenient. So I hope you're going to use it a lot. And also it sounds a little bit like the word ki, spelled kuf yud aleph. But kuf yud aleph means vomit. Don't confuse the two. Bishvil, for. Bishvil, for. הפרח הזה בשביל אמא שלי. This flower is for my mom. That's so cute. O, or. O, or. אפשר לטוס לרומא או למילאנו. I can fly to Rome or Milan. O and or are very similar, so I don't see any excuse to forget it. אבל, but. אבל, but. אני רוצה לאכול, אבל לא משהו מטוגן. I want to eat, but not anything fried. Of course I want to eat something fried. So the word aval means but. Again, extremely common. And it spells the same as some other words, but it doesn't sound the same. So when you're talking, you're not going to get confused. So aval is spelled the same way as the word for morning, which is kind of bad, but you don't say it the same way. Aval or evel, it's not the same, so you're not going to get confused when you're having a conversation. Ad, until. Ad, until. אני אלמד עד 6. I will study until 6. Ad means until or up to. Kind of the same meaning. Okay, everybody, that's it. Those were must-know particles in Hebrew. Let me know in the comments below if there's anything that I forgot, if there's any particle that you want to know what it is. And yeah, don't forget to check out HebrewPod 101 for more content, more Hebrew. Like up this video, share it with your friends, and I'll see you next time. Bye!
In Hebrew, there are only 22 letters of the alphabet, and technically they're all consonants.
There are also vowel sounds which are shown by the dot system called nikud.
Many of the sounds are similar to English, like b, v, sh, s, and t.
B, v, sh, s, t.
But there are a few sounds you may not recognize at first.
Like ch, ts.
In Hebrew, words are stressed differently than in English. Stress is usually on the last syllable of the word.
עבודה, מוצץ, מתלבש.
But in some cases, the stress is on the second to last syllable of the word.
לקוח, נוסע, מתלבשת.
Letters produce consonant sounds. These sounds are combined with vowel sounds indicated by the nikud. Vowel sounds you find in Hebrew are all found in English as well.
A, E, I, O, U.
There are different notations for these vowels, but in most cases, the basic vowel sound stays the same. The pattern of the word and the placement of the vowel determines which vowel symbol will be used.
For example, the word for language, lashon, and the word for crisis, mashber, both have A vowels after the first letter, but because of the way the word is constructed, the vowels are notated differently.
Some letters have two sounds, depending on if there's a stress on the consonant or not.
Bet is both B and V. Kaf is both K and Ch. Pei is both P and F.
There is also one other letter that changes sound according to the dot above it.
That's Shin and Sin. It makes the Sh sound when the dot is on the right, and the S sound when the dot is on the left.
The most daunting group of letters are the guttural letters.
A, H, Ch, A, R.
3 of these letters are pronounced deep in the throat. These may feel unusual at first, but are fun to say once you get the hang of them.
Ein, Chet, Resh.
Most of the sounds in Hebrew are already sounds you use in English. That means that if you were to simply imitate a Hebrew speaker, your pronunciation would be correct a lot of the time. For example, listen and repeat after Edith.
Rakevet, Rakevet.
Chances are your pronunciation was pretty spot on. The K, V, and T sounds are practically identical to English. It's only the R that's a little different. Focus on this first letter. It's often written as an R, but don't be fooled. This letter is pronounced differently than an English R. It's pronounced at the back of the throat instead of forward in the mouth. Listen to Edith say this letter.
R, R.
It's actually closer to the German or French R, but without the roll. Nearly all sounds in Hebrew are identical to English, like the K, V, and T sounds in this example. Since you already know how to pronounce most of these sounds, we only need to pay attention to the handful of sounds that are completely new to you. They're the ones we need to look out for. In the previous lesson, we taught you how to say thank you in Hebrew. Do you remember what it was? It's
Toda.
well done. Let's wrap up this lesson by recapping what we've learned. In this lesson, you learned that Hebrew has 22 letters, but even more sounds. The extra sounds come from the vowels and the consonants that can represent 2 sounds instead of 1. Many of the sounds in Hebrew are identical to the sounds in English. And there are only a handful of new sounds that you need to learn.
In Hebrew, we use 2 different scripts, one for print and one for handwriting.
Most people learn the printed script first, and even learn to write their letters this way.
These are called otiyot dfus.
Printed letters are rarely used for handwriting other than in elementary school, so most people learn script letters very quickly after learning the printed letters.
Script letters are called otiyot ktav.
One thing you don't have to worry about in Hebrew is capital letters. There's only one case for letters in Hebrew. Here's some general information about Hebrew letters. Hebrew is read right to left, the opposite of English. There are 22 letters in the Hebrew alphabet, and they are all consonants. You may be thinking, but what about vowels, right?
These dots are placed underneath or next to the letter in order to let you know what vowel comes after the consonant. Here is the word for dog, kelev, without nikud. And here it is with nikud. Let's do the same with the word for boy, yeled. Without nikud, it's, and with nikud, it looks like this.
Those are both with vowels. Let's look at one with some other vowels.
How about the word for mountains, harim? Here it is with nikud. This has both an a vowel and an e vowel.
Although this is very useful when you're learning Hebrew, don't get used to it. Most things in Hebrew are written without the vowel dots.
The reason we usually don't use nikud when writing Hebrew is that we don't really need it.
That's right. Hebrew is very systematic and structured. It's very methodical and logical. Words are created according to patterns, and this helps you figure out what vowels are used in the words.
You already know the word for dog, which is kelev. Next time you see this word, you don't need to see the vowels because you know they are there. You'll have to rely on what you've learned.
There are some letters in Hebrew that will indicate what vowels are present. These letters are technically consonants, but can behave like vowels.
Aleph, Hey, Vav, Yud, Ein. For example, the letter Hey often ends a word with an A or an E sound, like in the words Laila, for night, and Boneh, the masculine singular form for build.
There are 5 letters that change form when they're at the end of a word, but they're still the same letter.
Chaf, Chaf sofit. Mem, Mem sofit. Nun, Nun sofit. Pei, Pei sofit. Tzadi, Tzadi sofit. Here's an example of how this works. The letter Mem looks like this in the beginning or middle of the word. Mem. Like in the word for stage, bama. When it comes in the end, it looks like this. Mem. Like in the word for the sea, yam.
3 letters can have 2 different sounds depending on whether they are in a stressed position or not.
Bet is both b and v. In the word bama, or stage, it makes a b sound, and in the word for dog, or kelev, it makes a v sound. Chaf is both k and ch. For this example, we can use the word for dog again. In kelev, this letter makes a k sound. And in the word for correct, which is nachon, it makes a ch sound. This letter also has a special end form that looks like this. When it comes at the end of the word, like chiyuch, the word for smile, it's always pronounced ch. Pei is both p and f. In the word parpar, or butterfly, this letter is pronounced with a p sound. In the word for book, or sefer, it's pronounced with a f sound.
There are also 6 pairs of letters that at one point in history had different sounds, but today sound very similar.
Aleph and Ein, Bet and Vav, Chet and Chaf, Tet and Taf, Kaf and Kuf, Samech and Sin. For example, the words telephone, meaning telephone, and tshuva, meaning answer, begin with 2 different letters of the alphabet, but you would never know that unless you saw them written.
One interesting aspect of the Hebrew alphabet is the letters also represent numbers.
Aleph represents the number 1. Bet represents the number 2, and so on. When you get to the number 10, or Yud, we add the first 9 letters to it to represent 11 through 19.
The letters can be combined to create numbers into the hundreds and thousands. You can find the first 10 letters used as numbers in many day-to-day contexts.
For instance, Sunday is often referred to as Yom Aleph, or Day 1. The first semester in university is called Semester Aleph.
Okay, let's wrap up this lesson by recapping what we've learned. In this lesson, you learned that there are 2 different scripts used to write Hebrew, printed script and written script. Hebrew is written and read from right to left. All 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet are consonants. There are also vowels in Hebrew, and these are written with a dot system. Some letters in Hebrew cover 2 sounds, and other sounds are covered by 2 letters. And lastly, the Hebrew alphabet can also be used to represent numbers. Word order refers to the order in which words are structured to form a sentence in a given language. The first thing you must remember when reading Hebrew is that it's read from right to left. Consider the English sentence, he ate an apple. But first, let's remove the article an here for simplicity. So we're just left with he ate apple. The basic word order for English is subject, verb, object, or SVO for short. If we break down the English sentence, he ate apple, we can see that the subject he is presented first, followed by the verb ate. And then finally, the object apple is positioned last. This is the basic word order for sentences in English.
Now let's compare that same sentence. He ate an apple in Hebrew. הוא אכל תפוח. In Hebrew, you only need an article for definite articles. Here we have only an indefinite article, so we don't need a word like a or an. If we break down the Hebrew sentence, we get the subject, hu, meaning he. Then comes the verb, achal, meaning ate. And finally, we have the object, tapuach, meaning apple. The word order for Hebrew is the same as English, subject, verb, object, or SVO for short.
In Hebrew, for simple sentences with a verb, the order is the same as in English. Word order varies in Hebrew for emphasis and in more complicated sentences. You don't have to worry about that until you learn the basics. For now, use the basic subject, verb, object form when making sentences in Hebrew.
Okay, let's move on to the next section.
In Hebrew, you want to begin with the subject of your sentence. Let's start with the pronoun I.
In Hebrew, that's ani.
Next, you need your verb. In the present tense, there are 4 forms for verbs according to masculine plural, and feminine plural. When your subject is I, the verb is conjugated either in masculine or feminine, depending on who is talking.
Using the verb to love, le'ehov, as an example, the masculine is ohev, and the feminine is ohevet.
So, what do we have so far?
I'm a woman, so I would use the feminine, ani ohevet.
The last thing we need is an object, something you love. How about dogs?
כלבים. אני אוהבת כלבים. I love dogs. If I were a man, I would say, אני אוהב כלבים.
So it's as simple as that, and very similar to English. Now it's your turn. See if you can use these words to make the sentence, the boy loves dogs.
אוהב. כלבים. הילד.
Did you succeed? First, you need the subject, the boy. In the present tense in Hebrew, the verb is determined by the number and gender of the subject. Here, we have one boy.
הילד.
Then you need to add the verb, the boy loves.
This verb will be conjugated in masculine singular for the boy. That's אוהב. הילד אוהב.
Finally, you add the object. Altogether, the boy loves dogs.
הילד אוהב כלבים.
But what if you're not a dog lover and you want to express that in Hebrew? Forming the negative in Hebrew is very easy. You just need to know one word.
לא.
To make the sentence negative, you add this word before the verb.
אני לא אוהבת כלבים.
Great! Now you know how to make a sentence in Hebrew and you know how to say it in the negative. Next, we're going to teach you one more thing, how to ask a question in Hebrew. This is really difficult. Are you ready for this? You don't have to change a word in the sentence. To ask a question in Hebrew, you change how you say the words in the sentence. Let's hear the boy loves dogs as a question.
הילד אוהב כלבים?
Let's hear the difference between the normal sentence and the question.
The normal sentence is הילד אוהב כלבים. The question is הילד אוהב כלבים?
The formal way to ask this as a question is to add a word to the beginning of the sentence. But this way is not used very often in speech.
You say האם before the rest of the sentence. האם הילד אוהב כלבים?
If you want to ask who loves dogs, you replace the subject with the word for who.
That word is מי. מי אוהב כלבים?
Well done. Let's wrap up this lesson by recapping what we've learned. In this lesson, you learned that Hebrew sentences are formed using a subject, verb, object, or SVO word order, just like in English. Secondly, you learned how to make a sentence negative by adding one word before the verb. Lastly, you learned that asking questions in Hebrew is easy because you only have to change the way you say the sentence to ask a question. There are countless reasons, but perhaps the biggest one of all is that it could actually change your life. Learning a new language unlocks new pathways that are off limits to you now. There are certain things that you simply cannot do without having the technical or cultural skills that come from learning a new language.
Like working or living in another country.
Knowing another language provides you with greater job opportunities. You have the freedom to move to another country halfway around the world and earn a living, or even better yet, build a career from it, instead of just being stuck in one place. Language allows you to visit or live in places that you may never have even considered going. Knowing another language simply gives you more options to choose from.
And learning a new language can help you to be more open-minded and see the world from a new perspective.
Language and culture go hand in hand. The world is a big place, and by broadening your understanding of other cultures, it allows you to be more empathetic and understanding of the many different ways that people live their lives. With language, you're able to see and experience more, which helps you grow as a person.
Learning a new language also improves your memory.
Several studies have consistently shown that those who study another language have improved memory as opposed to those who didn't. Learning another language also keeps your brain healthy by significantly delaying the onset of Alzheimer's and dementia. This difference can be as much as 4 to 5 more years of quality life.
And those are just some of the reasons you should learn another language. The list just goes on and on.
Now you know the benefits of studying another language, but why should you learn Hebrew in particular?
Well, do you know the Bible? That was written in Hebrew.
One of the best reasons for learning Hebrew is to gain access to ancient texts in their original language. The Old Testament of the Bible was written in Biblical Hebrew. By learning modern Hebrew, you can begin to understand what the original writers intended in these complex texts. These ancient words take on new meaning when you know the word in Hebrew.
Speaking of history, modern Hebrew made history when it became a spoken language after 2,000 years of only being used for prayer and in religious texts.
That's right. Hebrew is unique in this way. In the late 1800s and the early 1900s, a man called Eliezer ben Yehuda worked hard to revive Hebrew as a spoken language. By learning Hebrew, you can be a part of this unique movement of history.
Today, Israel is a leader in the area of high-tech industry.
And this means there are many jobs and business opportunities in tech in Israel. Although most Israelis speak English, learning Hebrew will help you communicate in an effective way with Israelis. There are many times knowing the language and culture of Israel will give you an advantage when making a business deal or finding work in Israel.
Another reason to learn Hebrew is to better understand politics in the region.
There is quite a lot going on in the Middle East right now. Learning Hebrew will help you understand Israeli politics and perspective. You'll be able to read Israeli newspapers and watch Israeli news and learn about this intense region in a new way.
There are so many reasons to learn Hebrew.
Okay then, we've talked about why you should start learning a language and why you should start learning Hebrew, but how should they get started, Edith?
Well, it's as simple as learning your first word in Hebrew and building up from there.
The good news is that you already know some Hebrew.
Hallelujah, chutzpah, hummus.
These are words that have made their way into English, but the reverse is also true. Many English words have also made their way into Hebrew. In fact, for many modern technologies, like telephone or television, the word most often used in Hebrew is derived from English.
Telephone, televizia, autobus.
So there are many words you already know in Hebrew.
Let's teach you something that you might not know, but is very useful. Toda. It means thank you in Hebrew.
That's a useful phrase. Can you tell us more about these characters, though?
Sure. In Hebrew, you use the Hebrew alphabet. Once you learn the letters and their sounds, it's actually pretty easy to read. Most letters in Hebrew represent a consonant sound, but we also use a system of dots to represent vowels. These vowel dots are called nikud. When you're learning to read, you read texts with the vowel dots. As you get better, you read the letters without the dots.
Isn't that a little confusing?
No, it's actually easier than it looks. Hebrew is a systematic language, and the vowel sounds will be clear from the structure of the word. This is Toda with the vowel dots, Toda. And this is Toda without the vowel dots, Toda.
You'll learn the Hebrew writing system eventually, but for now, let's put up some romanization to help you get started.
The romanization will make it easier for you to learn Hebrew until you learn to read the letters yourself.
That certainly makes things much easier to learn. Well, okay then. Now listen and repeat after Edith.
תודה.
Now you try.
תודה.
Your turn again.
תודה.
Well done. Now you know how to say thank you in Hebrew. We've covered a lot of things already, so why don't we wrap up the first lesson and recap what we've learned? In this lesson, you learned that studying another language has many benefits, such as providing new job and business opportunities. The Hebrew language has a unique history, and learning Hebrew will open up a new aspect of history for you. And to say thank you in Hebrew, it's
תודה.
Want to speed up your language learning? Take your very first lesson with us. You'll start speaking in minutes and master real conversations. Sign up for your free lifetime account. Just click the link in the description.